This is your captain speaking.
Welcome to This Is Your Captain Speaking, New Zealand's foremost podcast, giving you access to the stories of New Zealand's top technology leaders. This week, we're catching up with Richard Wyke, the Chief Digital Officer at Harmony, who's going to tell us all about his personal leadership story, what he believes the New Zealand technology sector needs, and the cheat sheet for emerging leaders as they come into the New Zealand tech sector. Well, we should probably buckle in. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Julian. I'm one of the directors at Potentia. We're the largest technology recruitment business in New Zealand. I run the leadership search for them.
Richard Wyke, the Chief Digital Officer at Harmony.
Right.
We're an ASX-listed lender in Australia and New Zealand.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Nice, man. I've heard about Harmony before. They originally were based in New Zealand?
Yeah, founded in New Zealand. We were peer-to-peer originally.
Right.
And then, moved into Australia, and we've moved more to traditional warehouse funding. But yeah, things going really well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. How long have you been there for?
Just on 4th of July, it was my 3 years. So
4th of July.
yeah, Independence Day. Yeah.
Nice. It's interesting, man, because I work with leaders, and one of the things I do is I want to enable the tech sector to be as successful as it can be in New Zealand. And one of the things I do is I do leadership executives. So I'm really interested in leaders. I'd love to pick your brain, man.
Sure.
So what's on your mind as a leader every day at the moment?
Being ASX-listed, you're quite focused on results.
No doubt.
We've just been on a real interesting journey. We did a full restructure of all our technology platforms, and we've just finished that. So we're actually in a really interesting space now, moving from the rebuild and the growth to actually now fully on innovation and what's next in our sector, what we're going to push the teams to do. And it's an interesting space to have effectively your roadmap done and ready for everything next.
And to be exposed, right, to your shareholders, to the market, etc. Were you brought in to do that?
Yeah. Technology is a funny one, right? I mean, we grew amazingly on the old platform, but it got to the point where it was slowing us down, and it was hard to release new features. All that tech debt had crept in, and so we wanted to be able to release new features to the market, to customers really quickly. And so I was brought in to make that change and change the dev team around. It's been a really fun journey.
Was it kind of a bit scary to go into a listed business and to be exposed and to have your results available?
Yeah. And especially as I'd been in my previous company for nearly 8 years. So that was at Figured. So that was is a.
It's no good without you now.
It's not the same. They're doing really well. They do financial management for agriculture. They're here in Australia, in the UK, in the US, in Ireland. I was one of the early team members there. We grew it from 300 farms to half of New Zealanders is using that platform now. Wow. Tens of billions of dollars of milk production going through the platform in New Zealand. So, but then going from something that you're so familiar with into something new and very public is different. But I think I was ready for the pain and the transition.
Yeah. I mean, what was it that equipped you to be able to take all of that learnings from Figured and translate it into Harmony? Because it sounds like Figured is a bit different in what it does, and it wasn't listed, and then you're moving into kind of an enterprise, into an executive role.
In a lot of ways they're very similar, because at the end of the day it's a people business. It's about getting the team to do their best work and have rewarding careers, and so actually the sort of thing I do at Figured was very similar to what I did at Harmony. I think maybe the only thing that was tricky is going back to the beginning and starting the journey again.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah,
Back to the future.
Yeah.
What drew you to the tech sector to begin with? Because did you start there? Like, did you kind of graduate? Because I can sense an accent. You're from the UK. Did you start there?
No, not at all.
Right.
So my educational background is economics. Although I
helpful in fintech
it's useful. Although I graduated 2009, just as the financial crash just finished, and
financial services sector a massive hit.
Yeah, and I've just learned for 3 years about the beauty of deregulation and trusting the market, and but my dad had always been really involved in the early internet and the technology space. So it was something I was passionate about. Coded as a kid and all those sort of things.
Amiga 64 or
not that old. And so I think that's the thing I'm most passionate about, and got a job. Actually, I worked full time through uni on a, believe it or not, an SAP implementation. It's not a usual.
It's economics for the SAP.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a usual university job. And then, we moved here to New Zealand 11 years ago. Looking for a challenge and looking for a bit of a break from London as well. And then joined a startup, which was even more work than working in London. Yeah.
Yeah. What's something that no one knows about your leadership journey or about your career?
I don't know. I'm pretty open about everything, really. I mean, I think a lot of my style is being very,
what you see is what you get.
Yeah. We as an example, we do when new people start at Harmony, they come and have a chat with all the senior execs, and I just tell them my story. The roles I've had, the sort of things that have formed me. It helps them work with me better as well, I think, if they understand the things that I really care about and the things I've seen that have blown my legs off before, and those sort of things.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know there was I can't recall who was, Daniel Pink or someone, who said that one of the most powerful things you can do as someone who works with a leader is tell them how you want to be managed. Tell them and that getting that insight around, okay, well, this is what makes me tick. This is how I make decisions, and exposing that to new teams
absolutely
allows them to build a different kind of relationship.
100%.
Transparency, candid.
It's funny. So I've just got a new head of engineering in Harmony. I won't say his name because he's brilliant and I don't want anyone to poach him, but he's Bobby, and he
Schmobby.
No, that's the guy. And that was one of the things we talked about in our first session is make sure you are really clear with people the things that are important to you, the things that will drive you crazy if happen, because if you don't say those things, they'll just sort of bubble away under the surface, and people don't even realize they're poking a real painful bit for you. Yeah,
I think it's interesting, right? Because do you think that that's one of the kind of the bits of the secrets to be able to create those high performing teams? Is starting in that way, making sure that the relationships are being built on the right kinds of principles.
100%. I've been pretty lucky in Figured. We did really amazing things. We really pushed the boundaries of what we should have been able to do with a great team, right? And it's the same at Harmony. In 3 years, we've replaced our whole core banking system, done a migration of all our legacy onto the we went from first code on the new platform to the first loan in about I think it was 8 months. So real quick. But you do that through people who are really invested in the journey. And if you get the environment right and you make that personal connection. A lot of these things become a lot easier than a lot of people make them, maybe.
Well, so you talk about that, and you talk about the principles and coming in and making sure they're part of the journey. What else is it that allows you to deliver? Because it's a pretty massive formative change.
Yeah, and it's been also great for the business results. I mean, we're just doing helping more customers. The company's growing like crazy. It's
what else though do you think it is that allows you to deliver that stuff in a predictable kind of way?
Well, I think actually so much of it is there's that story of No, we're going to be the hare and we're going to win. The story of the amateur tennis player who goes and watches a pro game on Saturday and then tries and recreates that how the pro player plays on the Sunday, and they're very flashy but they lose. And I think that is a real problem in the technology space, that people look to the Googles and the Facebooks and the Open AIs and these huge companies, and they're the pro players, right? But they're playing a different game. And in our space, in product,
like 50% margins.
I mean, Google's got a cash machine in the basement they can just go help themselves to when they need no more money, right? Whereas if you're in the enterprise space, or if you're in product dev, like I have been, or in corporates, it's much more about not losing. It's about doing the basics right. Having a team that is really passionate about it. It's about getting the environment right. Making sure that people can get access to the tools and systems they need. But so many people don't do that. They try and focus on being the pro player, and I think it's a real mistake.
To get down to the cafeteria.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that stuff doesn't help. And so it sounds a bit boring, right? That we focus on those real simple things and not messing up. But actually, that's 90% of the battle.
Parallels though with high performance sport and that stuff, right? And I know that talk about the All Blacks. We have to. We're in New Zealand.
Yeah.
They focus on the basics. They focus on the basics, doing the basics brilliantly.
Yeah.
And then they, more recently, not as predictable results.
Yeah.
But that has always been the nexus around which they build all the different cultures. Like, be next to, the person next to you is going to deliver the basics so that you can deliver your basics. And then ultimately you create momentum because of that, and you create predictability and trust.
100%.
And that allows you to perform at a high level.
Yeah, and it is that thing that you don't practice till you can do it. You practice till you can't do it wrong. That trust.
All that sounds defensive, though, right?
It does a little bit.
It's not particularly sexy. But then again, the results are sexy.
Yeah, well, exactly right. So one of the things that I did because of some previous mistakes, we can talk about that. But Harmony was put in a real strong statement document, and so we call it our North Star, and it just lays out what we care about, what we're going to do. And one of the things is that so many technology teams see them and the business as other, like it's us versus them, or they don't understand. We're really clear from day one that our strategy is the company strategy. We are here to say yes to the business. That is what we exist for, and we're here to deliver business results. And and there's things you can do that help that. We really transparent on numbers coming through, so the developers and engineers and product owners own that. They if they see a bad day, they deeply care about it. But then we're really clear that we're not here to mess about with technology. We are going to use boring technology if we need to. Whatever gets us and also not be particularly tied to a piece of technology. If there's something better that comes along, great. But our job is to deliver for the business. That's what gets us out of bed in the morning. And I think it's interesting as well when you put in a statement like that at the beginning.
It's like
some
a charter.
Yeah.
That people sign up to.
Yeah, but some people opt out, right? And they go, that's not for me. I like playing with technology, and that's great as well, because
do they have a place there, or do they?
Well, it's been interesting. Harmony's been interesting. I sort of thought more people would opt out of that and go, that's not for me.
People want to belong too, right? Like they want to believe in something.
We haven't actually. The turnover's been pretty much zero for 3 years.
Market helps.
The market does help. Yeah, the market absolutely does help. But people are in for what we set out, and that's a shared team thing, rather than being a me thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. What do you? Because you think about that. You think about putting this charter in place. You think about putting the right environment in place, or the tooling for the right reasons. Do you? What are the things that have come along and tried to derail that? Like, has there been anything that you've been like, holy moly, I really need to sort that out? I thought that this would address all those things.
Yeah. The main thing actually is, once you do those things, all your job is, I think, as a senior leader, is that people development and the career progression for those people. Because actually, once you do those things, that's almost it. Like the teams will, and our teams at Harmony are so autonomous. They will make good decisions. They will, they'll come to me if they need help. But the main thing that derails it is when something goes wrong, and it's so natural, right? You go, that was a terrible mistake. Let's put in a process. Let's put in, we need to make sure that never happens again. And one thing I've really realized over my career is those things are like organizational scars, and there's usually very little or almost no one around to say no to them. They're like, well, of course we need to put in a process because the site just went down for 4 hours and it's a disaster. But the reality is you slow down everything that ever happens after that to make sure that one thing doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then the next time something happens, you add in another process, and all of a sudden you're drowning.
Controls.
Absolutely. And so the main thing that has derailed it is when people go, let's put in lots of effort to slow ourselves down. And being the person,
counterintuitive.
Yeah, and being the person to go
from the top. You're getting like, hey, that can never happen again.
Yeah.
You need to be able to guarantee me that. It's like, well, actually, if you want to go fast, if you want to deliver.
Yeah, I mean,
then there's going to be crashes.
Absolutely. And the way I talked through with the senior team, because when I came in, I was obviously they didn't trust me, but they don't know me. But said delivery in our space in technology is a continuum between ultimate velocity and ultimate predictability, and you can choose where you want to be.
Yeah.
And you probably don't want to be at ultimate velocity because that's absolute chaos. And
you're financial services, playing with money.
Exactly. But the reality is, if you put the right controls in place at a system level, about getting the system right, most things don't fall into that like trapdoor decision piece, and you can actually let people make most decisions. And so really optimizing for the thing that is important to us, which is shipping frequently and getting features to customers. I mean, you're right, of course. Being a listed, regulated financial institution, there's some things which absolutely can't go wrong, but that's where you should put the controls, not everywhere outside of that.
And if you start, that's one of those things. People talk about psychological safety. They talk about all those sort of things. But if people are ill-equipped to make decisions, or if you're hiring people that can't make their own decisions, then ultimately it keeps on. You become the hub in there, and it slows everything down as well. Not only the controls that you're putting in place from a regulatory standpoint, but you're not letting people make decisions, so therefore you're never going to reach peak velocity because actually it's all dependent upon you or some kind of mechanism
or some process, which always slows things down. Yeah, absolutely. It's
what is the most difficult decision you've kind of had to make in the current role or in Figure?
I mean, I think it's one of those things that any strength overplayed is a weakness, but I'm usually pretty decisive, and I don't think I struggle making decisions. Actually, it's one of those things that, if you have a really clear vision about what you're doing as a company or as a team, if you have, really clear goals, you're not confusing the team with too many things. I think if you're, decisions are often obvious, which is going to take us closer towards that direction. Whereas, if you're struggling to make decisions, it's usually a sign that you don't have a very strong vision for what you're trying to do. But, obviously, things that involve people are always tricky. Just personally, I don't like letting people down, and those things are just personally tough.
Have you instilled that in the culture? Like, do you think that's like it's this whole you say what you're going to do? You do what you're going to say.
Yeah, but it's who is it? Sam Altman talks about this a lot. Actually, is as a leader, you encode your values in the DNA of the teams, and your strengths, but also your weaknesses, and it's something you need to be really aware of. I think my team and all the teams I've managed, echo a lot of my good points and some of my bad ones. So you do need to watch that, actually.
It's a really interesting piece of it. Do you think that's a piece of advice that you give to like an emerging leader, is to actually 100%. Approach this with low ego, get people to give you the feedback around what your weaknesses are, and then either recruit or systemize how to fill those gaps?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, and if you're a really open, honest leader that is really themselves, that stuff becomes, I think, again, easy, as long as you're good at your basic job, of course.
Does any leader sound like that? Does any? I think,
no, I think a lot of people think they have to be a leader, right, rather than be themselves.
And they look to control, and they look to,
100%.
They kind of step away from the person that they are, and they start trying to be the person they think they should be.
Yeah.
And then when it all comes crashing down, they have to have this really hard look at themselves and say, well, actually, I wasn't being myself. I wasn't actually being honest about what it is I want to do or why I'm doing it or blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then you have that moment. Have you had that moment?
I think it's for me, it's one of those things that I've had basically great managers my whole career, which has been lucky, right? I've had people that are confident, that are themselves, that have usually been brought in for a reason and can execute on that really well, that usually realize the importance of teams having fun at the same time. And I've had a couple of leaders in between that haven't been that. And the stark contrast between how the first team performs versus the one with the leader thinks they need to manage, is huge. And actually, you see this in even either within teams, within my team, right? When someone tries to control, it usually doesn't. I mean, because they become the weak link.
Also, I guess it's running counter to the culture that you created too, right? Like, it's not, people's like, well, what's happening here?
Yeah. I read this really interesting book actually called Extreme Ownership, which is about
it's Navy SEAL.
Yeah, it's very, very macho and it's a bit nonsense. But one of the stories they tell is that Hell Week, where at the end of the training, and they do this exercise where they have to wade out with holding a boat in a team, get in the boat, row back, just do it over and over again until you question your life choices, I guess. But what they said in this book is what they found is when they switch the leader of the best performing team to the worst performing team, all of a sudden that worst performing team becomes the best. And it's actually less about their innate characteristics and strength. It's actually about how they're working as a group and as a team.
Isn't that interesting? Because I know that there's also the adage that you put, to get a person to perform, you shouldn't put them into the highest performing team, because what will happen is that performance will drop down to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah. I think one of the big problems we have in New Zealand is things like Scrum, because an agile, as they're implemented here,
word now, isn't it?
It is, but it drags everyone to medium. The best performers get beaten down to medium. The useless people get dragged up by everyone else.
Right.
I think if you can be the leader that sort of rejects that approach, you can get great things out of your teams.
What do you like if you think about what the kind of the biggest screw up or thing in your career was? Like, what was it? If you have to share it, but then also, like, how do you then avoid that?
Well, I mean, the thing that's probably most fresh in my mind is when I left Figured, and in that whole sort of encoding your DNA thing, the team was the dev team on rails. They were shipping so quickly, so connected to the mission, and but when I left, the team really struggled to adjust to a different style and different valid styles, but the immune system
baked yourself in
way too much, and I hadn't baked in principles or directions. I'd baked myself in, and it's one of the things I have been very intentional. My next role of not doing is putting myself in the critical path of things, making sure those the North Star document is a shared one, not me.
That must be difficult though to get your head around the fact that because you're expressing yourself in a leadership role, you're being yourself. You want to be as instrumental in its success as you can be, because you want them to get the best of you.
Yeah.
But then the blade cuts both ways, and so
absolutely.
suddenly we're like, well, no, the criticality of your role is so inherent into the culture and everything else. If you take it out, the whole thing falls over.
Well, exactly right. What I've realised is you can't do that because it's not sustainable past you. And luckily, I'm I think they've got over that now. Although I'm on the I'm on the technology advisory board, and every time I go in, they remind me all of their problems. It's because of me. But, yeah,
tough.
Yeah.
So who helped you to earn your first place as a leader? Like, how did that even come about? Like, were you born, or were you built, or were you forged?
Oh no, definitely built. I mean, well, there's obviously all those moments where you...
Because you're like a pretty self-directed, self-motivated kind of person.
I mean, you're always the hero in your own story, aren't you? But no, I mean, so the Dave Dodds, the CEO at my previous company, it got me my first real leadership role. There were some problems in the technology space, and I presented an alternative view, and he really backed me. Zainab, who's the people person there, really built my people muscle. The team at Harmony as well, have really refined, I think, some of those skills. And but yeah, I mean, it's I don't think anyone's really just born a leader in any style. I think the sum of all the parts that have gone into your career and all the managers that have been good or bad.
So Figured was the first kind of leadership or executive role that you had?
It was, yeah.
But then had you had kind of management or leadership roles previous to that?
Previous to that I was really in the product space. So as a product manager for a company in London, which actually, when you sort of think back to it, was actually an amazing experience. But, at the time you never realised the things they were doing that were brilliant. One of the things...
Youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I spent my whole time drinking in London rather than paying attention. But they were, as a company, super transparent. Me joining as the lowest employee there in London, I could access all the financials and I could see how projects were going. And that's a level of transparency I've tried to carry through, because you make better decisions, even as I was then, completely valueless to anyone. You make better decisions, right? Because you know what the company's trying to do, you know what the CEO cares about. And so many companies try and hide that stuff for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, right? I mean, I guess in this day and age where people expect there to be a level of transparency, then it's probably more kind of standardized. But I guess as well, back then it's kind of like, don't worry about that. It's not your business. Right?
Yeah.
But then because of that, you get a lack of engagement.
Exactly, yeah.
What's the kind of you talk about that transparency, you talk about the access. Is that something that you use as kind of a secret sauce with your current team, like a tool set? And how much information do they actually get?
As an example, we just did our engagement survey, which we do every year. And, I get the summary of all the comments, anonymous. Everyone scores. And, this morning I just shared it directly to the team, the whole thing, unfiltered. This is what I get as soon as I saw it.
Permission.
It means that we can, because people raised real useful, interesting things, and we can deal with that as a team, and it becomes our shared. Obviously I have to help it and make it happen for them, but you have to really believe in transparency, because everyone says it, right? Everyone says a lot of things, but actually living it is often quite tricky, because there's always negative stuff in there, and you go, well, you have to do both.
Yeah, look, and I think that if you can own it, and you can do the most about it that everyone's doing about it, then you're kind of playing that role of a leader, right? But it's
and you hope you get the trust back, right?
And I think that there's this beautiful phrase, right? Like that success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan. So, but you've got to pick up that failure.
I'll
be like, okay, I'm going to do something about it.
I'll take the failure.
I'll wear it. I've got to go. What other tool sets do you use? Like, what have you found to be most effective? That you were like, if you're bringing in your new leader, a new head of engineering, Schwabby, what are you saying? Hey man, this is the tool set I think you should adopt. This has really helped me.
Gosh, I don't know. One of the things is driving
decision frameworks.
A little bit. I think you sort of share those learnings as you go, and as something comes up, you go, "Hey, I've seen this before. This is where the bodies are buried. Don't do that." But so much of it can just be genuinely achieved by connecting with your team, and the transparency goes a long way, so that when you're making decisions, you're making it with them. And I think people overcomplicate this stuff so much. They really, focus on the wrong things, and it's not a hard job, really. I mean,
I guess it's also a testament to the fact that you enjoy it, and you're engaged in it, and you get a lot of reward out of it.
One thing I actually did say to not Bobby, was, you've got to, as a leader, you've got to make the role fun for you, because there's going to be moments, right, where it's 11 o'clock at night, everything's gone completely wrong. Everyone's looking at you for why it's gone wrong. You've got to pick your team up. You've got to plot a course out of the mud you've dragged them into. And if the role isn't fun for you, and you don't take those moments to take your team to the pub and invite them around to your house for a barbecue and actually enjoy it, it's going to be a really long road. And you've got to be a bit selfish in that regard. And you don't want to become a martyr as a team. You want to see them, your team, watching you enjoy what you do. Because if you're the most stressed person on the team, it's not a great place to be.
Yeah, I've got this theory, right, that you've got the journey and the destination, and they are almost, some people are more interested in the destination and some people are more interested in the journey, right? And I think that, but that being a great leader, you've got to embrace both. The day-to-day has got to be stimulated. You've got to enjoy the people that you work with, or the thing that you're doing. It doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
But also the direction, where they're going. So this, a new leader coming on, it's like, where are you guys? Where do you want to take this?
And so many people miss that. They focus on the mechanics of what's the boat going to look like and what sort of sails have we got, rather than we want to. It's actually one of the lessons that Dave taught me was, if you're planning to sail across the Atlantic, you're not going to be able to plan exactly what you're doing at every single moment. But if you've got that direction, that vision, it's so much easier to know if you're going in the right way, if you're doing the right things. And that over emphasis on the mechanics of how your job works versus the vision and the strategy and the direction, I think is a lot of people's undoing.
Yeah, if you got the ultimate destination, the course correction will work. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you using the sailing analogy, what's on the horizon?
I'm a terrible sailor.
Me too. I'm scared. So on the horizon, like what you see coming for the local sector, what are you most kind of concerned about?
Obviously
this doesn't affect the Harmony share price.
No, we're in good hands. I think security stuff is obviously always scary for a lot of people. I think when incidents happen, people realize how underprepared they are. So it's a really good time to go get good partners in that space.
It's an arms race.
And AI is only going to increase the power of those attacks.
Took us half an hour to get to AI. That's good effort.
I'll talk about AI. But obviously AI is going to be huge. It already is for our dev teams, and I think it's one of those weird cases where the technology is already ahead of what people can see uses for it. It's very different to previous technology changes in that regard. And often people they get a moment where they like see the matrix, right? And understand that by thinking differently or reframing the problem, they can be much more productive. Or
it's actually a wonderful moment to observe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you see the lights go on. Oh wow.
That's how I need to think about it.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a bunch in our team, as well as in the organisations that I work with, and it's kind of like nuclear energy, right? Like it's got immense.
Hopefully
prospects,
kill people.
Prospects, but then on the other side of things, there's all these kind of weaponization of it, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the thing that you're most concerned about as far as a risk and what you think about security concerns?
But again, we try and keep our world relatively focused. We've got next year's innovation goals that we're focused on, making sure the team are happy, making sure they're getting the career development that they want. You can spend a lot of time thinking on stuff that you don't really control, or we just try and again focus on the basics.
Yeah, and when you think about the next generation of leaders that are coming through for you, what's kind of the gap in the skills? Do you think with what you see coming, how are they going to need to adapt?
Gosh, I don't know.
Let me rephrase the question. If you were doing this over again, like, what would you be with what you know? What would you be like? Shit, I need to, I really need to consider that about my leadership journey.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's so cliche, but going and finding good bosses is obviously really critical. I mean, finding people that have a philosophy or can share an approach or a way of conceptualizing what it means to be a leader is so valuable, and then someone that's going to share that with you.
Yep.
Because it takes a lot of time as a leader to go and spend that time with people. So finding someone that's willing to do that for you, but then also going and finding some pain. Go and I mean, one of the things I did early in my career, I went from a BA role into a purely technical role, and on Monday morning in my first day, I was like, I do not know what I'm doing. Like, everyone here is a lot smarter than me, and you grind your way through it. But through those moments of pain, I think is probably where you learn the most and become form the most about your own style.
Yeah, I feel like what I'm doing is giving you philosophical kind of fortune cookie sound bites here, but like on the other side of that pain is the growth, right? Like it's you have to do the struggle, you have to go through the gauntlet to come out forged into something else, right? And that's I think that what a lot of young leaders are worried about is the image that they're projecting and their reputation, all those things. All fair in an age where those things are exposed and information travels so quickly. But if you're not putting yourself through that pain, then when people really do need you in that leadership role, you're not ready. Like, you're not ready to take through that pain like you were talking about before.
I think sometimes it's useful having perilous levels of self-confidence, because you don't worry about that stuff, right? You're like, I'm just going to do me, and we're going to do great things, and follow me if you want.
It's all going to be great.
And actually, I mean, there's actually a lot to be said for that. Just leading confidently is it's much better for
being open to feedback too.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like so that you're going to be decisive, you're going to be confident, but also know that I don't know everything that I'm doing here.
Yeah.
And so you, like, when you think about that kind of that piece of pivotal feedback that allowed you to get to that point, like, what does that mean? What is that thing that you either you covered or that you like made the most difference in your career?
One of the biggest ones, actually, and it was really, I actually tell this story to every new starter because it helps them understand how I work. So I in my London, where I worked, a company called Trayport, great company, and my boss at the time was this guy Ami, and he may see this, I don't know, he probably doesn't even remember me, but he was head of oil, so effectively a product manager, but like a proper one, actually responsible for a business unit. And I had my first review with him, and I was expecting like a pay rise because I was, glory. I was, because I was nailing being a product owner. Yep. All my stories were perfect. We hit our velocity every time. And in this feedback session, he opened up, was like, "You're completely useless to me." And I was like, "Wow, that's not what it's one of those ones where you sit in silence all the way home. And I mean, he probably doesn't even remember, right? But the thing about Ami that made him really brilliant was, I mean, you could never find him. He was never in the meeting he was supposed to be in. What he did is he lived the customers' lives. He was always, maybe like going for lunch, I don't know. But and so when he came back from a long lunch and said, "We need to do this," it was always right, because he just had that deep intuition for what the customers needed. And so one of the things I say to, and so pivotal to me, is actually the mechanics of it just don't matter, really. I mean, if you have someone who knows what you need to do, having better stories or worse stories won't make a difference. Because if you don't have that and you're doing perfect stories in the wrong direction, you're not going to achieve anything. So, I should probably send Ami a note and say thank you for that.
You probably should. It's interesting though, right, that you took that away, and I imagine that you were focused on your tasks and you were focused on doing the tasks, but because there wasn't meaning behind that, because there wasn't impact behind that.
Well, I didn't realize
essentially you were hiding behind behind the work.
Oh, 100%. I think by realizing what my job was really important. And I think is one of the things I talk to people when they join is, what do you think your job is? If you're a developer, it's not writing code. It's about, what we're building for the customers. For me, it was just that moment of, oh shit, I need to actually work out what I'm here for and what I'm doing. Yeah.
And what is what is that North Star? Right?
Absolutely.
What is the thing?
Yeah.
It's so. Yeah. Do you think that? Because I know that product has gone through a bit of a revolution over the last, particularly 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And I know that you must feel quietly chuffed that now people are focused on not necessarily just building features. They're focused on outcomes and the product getting better, either from a customer feedback perspective or from an actual ability to generate money outcomes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's still slow going though, right? I mean, because that transition is starting, but I think there's still a lot of people who are focused on mechanics or the administration
Backlog jockeys.
side of product, and it's just, I think, but it's becoming much easier if you're not that to really stand out, because you're the person that is doing the brilliant things.
Delivering value.
Yeah, delivering value, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't like that expression. I think it's overused, but I totally understand it. When you think about what is going to change in the sector, what do you expect, based upon the trends that you're seeing now, what do you see happening with product development, with the technology sector in general?
I don't have a crystal ball on that. I just genuinely don't know. I mean, obviously, you're seeing the efficiency and speed of everything increasing. But there's still, I think we're building a lot of legacy right now. And
do you mean unwieldy legacy?
Yeah.
Right.
And people probably don't even know they're doing it. And
everyone builds a model, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone starts to to make it this and that, but everyone builds a model because of the timeline. Do you think that's going to be different, or do you think it's going to be actually an even bigger problem?
I think it's going to be an even bigger problem. But I think what's going to happen is that the companies that can move quickly and avoid building that technical and institutional debt will win in any industry they're in.
Is that because they're not weighed down by all of this kind of legacy? You mean legacy code, legacy business,
legacy thinking,
practices.
Legacy everything? Yeah. If you can't ship new features or new experiences or value to your business in days and weeks, the company that can is going to eat your lunch, really. I mean, you can't be a financial institution that can't respond to something. If 18 months is how long it takes you to get something new to market, I mean, you're going to really struggle.
Yeah. Okay. And then when you think about what the sector needs right now locally, number one, do you know what that is?
Oh, I think it's that leadership development piece. I mean, I do think we've got a real, especially if you compare New Zealand to some international markets, I think, unfortunately, we've got a real leadership problem. Like, there's a lot of very poor leaders or people who, have inherited technology and product and as a portfolio under something else, and it's not something they deeply understand. And so, growing that next level of leaders, I think, is so important. And I think it's something that we can do more of as a sector here.
That's kind of hopefully what I'm going to be able to do. But do you think that there's, like you talked about, essentially you said find yourself a mentor, find yourself a leader that's prepared to see your potential, right? But then what else is there? Like, where would you go if you were a leader? Would you form up a squad of people and just kind of build something and see how you can lead in that space? Would you go out and get your education? Like, what would you do?
Yeah. Oh, look. Yeah. I think I'd. I would probably go and find those interesting companies that have interesting leaders and are in tricky, tough, complicated spaces. But yeah, I think good leaders are only really formed through those big challenges. So you've got to go and find or manufacture them for yourselves.
Yeah, I would love to see the challenge of being a leader, right? Is that you inherently often people will focus inward because that's their team needs them. They will focus inward because actually that's the best use of their time. So they're really, really good people, unless they've got their own PR agency, don't project themselves.
No.
Don't make themselves identifiable.
Yeah.
And fortunately that's why I got a job. But that whole level of actually, how do I find that person? How do I get to know where the interesting companies are, where the interesting leaders are? That's a real challenge, right?
Yeah.
And it's particularly in New Zealand because of the tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
People don't want to expose their successes. They don't want to.
Yeah, and I feel like the ones that do are usually probably the ones that deserve the least PR, because there are lots of people doing great things in New Zealand, and like you say, they are often under the radar, quietly working away, doing great things.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a huge issue, and I also think like there's an element of the profile people think of as great leaders is often not probably what the teams really need. You need to go find those slightly kooky people that can actually do those great things, and it's probably not the person that's got a million boring enterprise projects under their belt, sort of things.
Got their PMI certification. And look, as I've gotten older, a little bit more salt on the pepper. You do look to people with eccentricities because they are the people that quite clearly have lived their life and have maintained these eccentricities. So there's a level of kind of character solidity or uncompromisingness. Like, I'm just going to be myself. Yeah. And that kookiness is just part of who I am. Yeah, right? Actually, it makes you more effective. Absolutely. Because people are like, oh, it's really interesting.
But the problem is those people are hard to manage, right?
Yeah, well, they're not manageable.
Yeah,
right?
and so people shy away from it. But actually, if you can put the energy in, like they will do the best things for you. But and they'll also be a complete pain in the ass most of the time. But they will also find
their home.
Yeah.
When you look at the international kind of, you've spent time in the UK, you've spent time here. I know that it sounds like with Harmony, you've got Australia there as well. Which other markets, you talked about the fact that, in other markets, there's maybe greater leadership, reading between the lines. What other markets do you think New Zealand can learn from, given its size and proximity, etc.?
Oh, I mean, to be honest, any of the sort of Commonwealth type economies. I mean, the US is a bit...
Just a British thing?
Yeah, I mean, it is a British thing, yeah.
Are we looking at not part of the Commonwealth anymore?
Yeah. But, I mean, obviously the UK is often ahead of us a little bit in financial services for sure. Australia, but also places like Canada are quite interesting. They've got the big centres, London. They do have
draw from them. Like, what do you think we can go? Oh, look, we could totally pick that up here and do something similar to that. Yeah, that would make us more effective. Like, is it around a policy thing? Is it around the community being more invested in one another?
Well, I mean, actually, just one of the things. I mean, it's an unfortunate reality of New Zealand is there's just not enough money floating around for putting.
Certainly the last 4 years, right?
Oh, it's been dire. And there's and of course investment's dried up everywhere, but there's still that low level going on in other markets that has just disappeared here, and I think it's made it really hard for people to go and do cool new things, right? And it's led to probably a slightly stagnant tech sector, and then you don't have that. I mean, if you look at the AI leadership strategy document that came out from the government a couple of weeks ago, like it's so underwhelming compared to what other countries have been doing for years.
And also our capacity, because I don't think it reflects our capacity, or what our potential capability.
No, it just needs to be so much bolder, and again, I think it's just lacking that really strong vision and direction that we just desperately need as a sector.
Absolutely, and I my shoulder's fully behind the tech sector. I don't think we should have that many more cows. I don't think that we can fit that many more tourists.
Yeah.
And the opportunity that we've got to be able to export something which is extremely valuable straight down a fibre optic cable or the designs to a manufacturing centre. It's a fiscally and socially responsible future for New Zealand to put this money into technology, and it's a massive concern, right? Like, it seems that we're successful here despite
I think
the lack of funding, right? Like, and so it's a real testament to the character and the capability and the innovation, if you want to use that word, of our leaders and the organisations that are actually building technology.
And we do have some great individual investors and some high net worth sort of trying to stimulate, but you need that next level of funding, right? That's can actually move a sector rather than moving a couple of companies.
Yeah, and one of the other things I will say is that you look at what's been happening in the last 3 years or so. Admittedly, in some ways, some of the organisations that received quite a lot of funding locally didn't perhaps have the business models to be able to create exponential growth in the long term, and there's been this kind of snapback, which means that there's very little now money going around. And so what I've seen in the last 3 years is actually a complete lack of funding, even for good organisations and businesses that could do great things with even just a little bit more runway and stuff. And I think that's a real shame.
Yeah.
Look, that's awesome, man. Look, we're coming into land, so thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Been a great chat.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.
This is your captain speaking.